There should be a, where's my mic? Is this it? Wow. Good morning. Morning. Thank you all for coming. I'm hoping more people will drift in and hoping for some classes to come in. But I want to get started on time. So on behalf of Husson University and specifically the School of Nursing and my graduate nursing program, I want to welcome you all to the Gracie Theater and particularly thank the amazing technical people who've been helping us for the last 2 days to get ready for this wonderful presentation today. This is going to be, I can tell you, an extremely exciting discussion today with Dr. Grossmann. So in introducing him, I just want to tell you a little bit about him. Since completing his surgical residency in Ann Arbor, Michigan, he's developed as a general trauma advanced laparoscopic and robotic surgeon. He practices here in Bangor, Maine. The hardest thing in the world for me to ever believe that we had this little jewel right here. He blogs at raphaelgrossmann.com and tweets at ZGJR capitals. Okay, he'll give that to you again. Throughout his career, Dr. Grossmann is focused on tapping the paradoxical power of technology to coexist with a better and more humane medical care. As a healthcare futurist, being a full-time practicing surgeon gives him those rare skills, qualities, and advantages to combine and enhance both those passions. He's one of the earliest Google Glass explorers, and on June 20th, 2013, was the first doc ever to use Google Glass during live surgery. Pretty amazing. He's a telemedicine, global health, and digital medicine advocate. And Dr. Grossmann is a strong believer in the power of tech to augment healthcare and education to better connect providers and patients. So that's what it's all about. He's convinced that innovation in healthcare technology, along with current developments in mobile and wearable platforms, virtual, augmented, and mixed reality, along with nanotechnology, 3D printing, and robotics, will exponentially improve healthcare connectivity, communication, and data management, and result in more efficient, intuitive, less expensive, and ultimately better and more empathic patient care and medical education, as well as improve global access to healthcare. Technology he sees as just an asset to the basic and most important qualities of a medical provider, which we all agree are compassion and empathy. It is really my great honor to welcome my mentor, friend, and colleague, Dr. Raphael Grossmann, healthcare futurist, tech innovator, trauma surgeon, but above all, educational visionary. Dr. Grossmann.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. Yep, that's Paul. Thank you very much. And I hope the lights are not too bright so the videos can show, but it's really a pleasure to be here. And I apologize because I was on call all day and night last night, and I almost thought of not coming, but then I was so afraid of what Mary would do, you know, to me. But anyways, so I'm a general surgeon. That's what I do, and general surgery is really my passion, and my patients are my passion, and my main interest. I do that full time, and I'm a trauma surgeon. That's what I do. Trauma surgery is a very high energy and high adrenaline, high stakes type of profession. We take care of a lot of pretty significant injured patients. The other thing I do as a general surgeon that I am, me and my group, I do advanced laparoscopic surgery. That requires a lot of technology, a lot of gadgets, a lot of things that really, as a surgeon, technologist, or as a geek surgeon, it gets me really kind of fired up. I was able to go to this program at Singularity University in Silicon Valley a few years ago at the NASA research facility, and it was a program on exponential medicine, a program that really exposed the participants, 80 of us, for almost a week and a half, to incredible dream-like technologies that we could not, think it was possible to do those things. One of those technologies was Google Glass. And when I saw what Google Glass could do, I was completely immediately transported to a future day when we would do a lot of things in medical care and a lot of things in medical education with a similar device or that device itself. So a few weeks later, after meeting the inventor of Google Glass in Silicon Valley, I was able to get a unit, and then I was able to do the first surgery ever performed with Google Glass, live streaming a procedure, and that caught a lot of attention. A friend of mine in Forbes did a post about this, and that went viral, and he was so happy because he got like 50,000 tweets or reads on his post within the first hour or so. And that was sort of the beginning of a sort of a secondary career for me as a communicator. I really thought that communicating all those incredible technologies and the potential for all those incredible technologies to help us do important. So I started a blog post, and that transformed itself into a sort of web page that is completely non-commercial. I have no conflict of interest and no participation in any big industries. Sometimes I think, unfortunately, because I'm just a surgeon. But this is an educational site that I created, and with the help of a local company in Orono, I created the website, and I think it's becoming a really fun place to visit and learn if you're interested in healthcare, if you're somewhat a technology-oriented person. So, you know, the main thing that I want people to keep in mind is that healthcare is a basic human right. You know, healthcare, we think about healthcare and we start, you know, debating the business of it and whether it makes money or not, but you know, healthcare is a basic human right, and that's the most important thought that I think that we need to focus on. And the other thing is that human right, the healthcare, a human right, is in deep trouble. You know, as a provider, I see that every day. I see that my patients see that, my colleagues see that, and healthcare is in such deep trouble that if people knew what happened on the other side of the walls of the hospitals, and people would not go to the hospitals, really, because it's really, really dangerous. Despite, you know, we're lucky that we have excellent healthcare providers in the area and health care systems in the area, you know, in Maine in general, that are pretty amazing. But still, the things that happen that people don't know about and that the administrators know about but can't really fix, and that the government knows about and they can't really fix, are things that are really, really very troubling. You know, starting on the cost of healthcare is a shame. It's an unsustainable, you know, anyone who knows any finances, you know, almost $3 trillion a year expenses related to healthcare, and that's unsustainable in any economy, even in the United States. And the other problem is the amount of mistakes, the amount of errors that we unfortunately have, and those errors sometimes conclude with the death or severe injury of a patient. This is a number that some people debate. 440,000 patients die every year from preventable errors in the United States. And a few years ago, when the Error is Human report came out, it was 99,000. And you know, I say, I don't care if it's 440, or if it's 240. If it's one person who dies due to a problem that is preventable, that should be completely unacceptable, right? And that's the focus. It's not the number, which is significant, a number of people, but it's just that the fact that something preventable happens, that should not be acceptable. So the other problem is the amount of providers that we need. We expect that in the next 5 years or so, we're going to have a deficit in the U.S. of general providers greater than 100,000. And globally, that deficit, is much higher. It's in the millions. And that is only going to get worse because people are getting older and people are living longer, and the providers are being actually drained more because the medical schools and universities and nursing schools, they are actually having the budgets all cut off, because when the money gets tight, they go to the basis, and that's a problem, because then we end up with the problem of having a dysfunctional system where if you're going to see your PCP, the average time is almost a month to see a provider for just a regular medical problem. So a lot of the patients end up obviously going to the emergency rooms, and then we know how emergency rooms are closing all over the country. It is expected that in the next 5 years, hundreds of hospitals in the rural hospitals in the U.S. will close. And imagine the problem that is. Imagine you have someone in the Jackman area and they have to come to Bangor for a simple thing. And it happens already without all those hundreds of hospitals already closing. So to me, that's a real issue. High demand and low supply, that is sort of the core of the matter. So the most important thing, though, the most troubling thing in healthcare, I think, is the lack or the fact that the human connection is progressively being lost. You know, we don't focus on the patients. We can't focus on the patients because we are required and forced and enforced to document and comply and all the regulations, and we are on those digital health records that are dysfunctional, and we have to spend, and it's been proven that a provider spends almost 80% of their times outside of the patient's realm, of the patient, on the computer, on the machine, and 10% with the patient. Imagine how you're a doctor or nurse, you want to be with the patient and help the patient, and what happens is that you spend 10% of your time with the patient and 80% of the time, and the rest is, you eat and drink and go to the bathroom, but you should not be most of the time away from the patient. It should be in a reverse fashion, and I think that's where technology hopefully can help. Technology, you can be a technologist or you can be completely afraid of technology. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm passionate about technology. I think technology is part of what we are as humans from the times we started, carving stones to, creating satellites and spaceships that go beyond the galaxy. It's all the same. It's technology, and if we use technology in a smart I think we can really do incredible things that change how we help. I think you need to be creative. You need to be disruptive. I think that's sort of the core of innovation. You need to somewhat shake the system. If you don't shake the system, then the innovation is probably not that good. They say once Nicolas Negroponte, who is one of the founders of the MIT Media Lab, went to Venezuela at a conference, and within a couple of days he said that Venezuelans, he got the feeling that Venezuelans had this healthy disrespect for authority. And I love that phrase because I think that to be an innovator, you need to really kind of be a little bit of a healthy, disrespectful person in a way. Sometimes ask for forgiveness and ask for permission. Sometimes that you have to do that in order to shake the system sometimes. I love Dr. Eric Topol's phrase, the creative destruction of medicine. That's what really needs to happen. So disruption is really the core. Creativity, social good, that is important. Creative disruption is the core. You have this machine, for example, a robot. Robotic surgery is very common these days. It's been going on for about 20-some years or so. We have a great program here in Maine at Eastern Maine Health, and that looks really different, really innovative, really wow. This is the future. Well, this is really the past. And if you want to be disruptive, then you do things like this. A robot costs about $2 million. And you have technologies like FlexDex, which is a device that was designed in Michigan, from the University of Michigan. And it costs about $500. $500 for a device that allows you to some degree have the same functionality of a 2.5 million robotic machine. Imagine the access that gives to that robotic technology or that technology to the rest of the world that can't pay $2.5 million for a single machine. So this, to me, is where disruption, it needs to be. If you look at that and you don't see the rest of the picture, you can think this is the Da Vinci robot, the $2.5 million machine doing it. Well, it's not. It's a $500, hand tool that the surgeon is driving that is doing the same sort of functionality. And if you think beyond, then you see machines like this, which is the SP system for Intuitive, is the new device that is coming out within the next year or so. This is not a prototype. It's already a functioning device. They just need FDA approval. Imagine that it's a small incision, and you put this alien-like device inside the patient, and you're driving that from a console in the distance. It's robotic surgery, but it's robotic surgery, I think, on steroids. It's really robotic surgery the way it should be. This is going to change the way we really do surgery, the way that laparoscopic surgery changed the way we did surgeries for hundreds of years. So it's really exciting. So healthcare, is in trouble, and I think that there's no question about that. One thing that I always focus on is the numbers of visits and the numbers of the patient doctor or the patient nurse contact. We know that there's approximately 4 million consults every day, and we know that every year we see about 1 billion visits, and we know that most of that visit does not require the patient and the provider to be touching, to be physically touching. So that brings us to some very interesting concept, which is telemedicine. We know that the price of going to the doctor unnecessarily is astronomical. And we know that also the old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words and a video is worth 1,000,000 pictures. Well, that is true, and that's why telemedicine, which is teleconsultations, video consultations remotely for medicine, is really very important. We've been doing that in Maine for a number of years. The fact that you have to wait so long to see your provider, and the distance and the weather can be a problem, telemedicine can really improve access to providers. And we're doing that in Eastern Maine and in many other hospitals in the world. We have even portable carts. We can basically drive the cart, the portable cart.
In a minute or so,
we have a little bit of video.
trauma room.
So we can drive that portable cart at Eastern Maine and manipulate the cameras remotely, situated in MDI hospital or in any of the other Calais hospital. We can drive their cameras from our site, and that is pretty cool looking and pretty interesting and pretty helpful, but it's a big system. It's hard to maintain, it costs money, and then we thought, well, why not think differently? Why not do it in a mobile fashion? I was just checking on some new technologies for telemedicine, and I saw this avatar, artificially intelligent product that is real. They're using this in New Zealand. They have this avatar, and we have a little video, a little audio there. This is an avatar. This company got the best avatar producer in Hollywood, and then they paired with IBM Watson to give the avatar intelligence, and deep learning. And this avatar is on a screen, and you can call the avatar and connect not with a human, but with this avatar, which is intelligent in a way and can give you answers. They were looking for a credit card information. What credit card should I choose? And the avatar guided the person. So imagine using that in medicine. Imagine that you call with symptoms, and the avatar is tapping all the statistics and all the papers out there much faster than a human could do to give you an answer. It's not a substitution for the human provider, the human doctor, the human nurse. It's just an augmentation of that human. That avatar cannot have feelings, cannot have empathy. We can be left alone to do those things, to be with the patient not just 10% of the time, but 80% of the time, and do stuff that the machines will never, at least for a long time, be able to do. Connecting with the human from the human aspect, while the machines can do all the calculations and all that stuff, and you can have a nice face, a human-like face, in order to help you do that. So I thought that was pretty interesting to bring to you. That is a pretty new project. And then mHealth, or mobile health, which is basically using providers. We all remember this, the days of Martin Cooper creating these big phones. And then you have, phones that this is only to make calls, and this phone make calls and everything else. It's a computer that is much powerful than the computer that brought people to the moon. And we don't think about that, but when this came out, people was almost, joking, why would you need a phone with you all the time? You're so important that you always need to carry a phone with you. Imagine now what we would think. And it's something that we don't realize, but people in most of the world, have cell phones. And nowadays they have smartphones. You have people that have no water, no toilets, no toothbrushes, but they have a cell phone or a smartphone. These are statistics from not too long ago. Pretty soon there are going to be more smartphones, not cell phones, not flip phones, smartphones in the world than there will be people. Most people have more than one account anyways. So imagine the power of connectivity, the power of communication, the power of access, if that and when that happens. So it's a change of culture. You have, the person who does not look at the screen, when they're doing something else, or even when they are doing something else, like driving, for example. That person is a weird one. So you have that guy who what's he doing? He's not looking at the screen. There must be something wrong with him. And we are changing the way we behave. We're changing the way we see patients with back and neck pain because every minute of the day, most people, it's doing this. So the Homo sapiens, the Homo erectus is now the Homo mobile or something like that. It's really a very dysfunctional thing, and that's why technologies like smart-mounted displays are really, really out there. We did this pilot proof of concept because we were able to do telemedicine from our smartphones, from iPod touch devices, connect to 17 sites in Maine, telehealth sites, from our pockets to the health centers to connect with them via telemedicine and answer their questions. So that is, I think, using technology in a smart way. And technology is going exponentially. We have these microcomputers. This is the M3, the Michigan Micromod. The Michigan Micromod is a self-sustaining computer. And this kind of nanotechnology, the reduction of computing power and increasing of the speed of the computer, all of that is bringing us to amazing, amazing development in general, but in healthcare. This is a patient that has the brain wired to a computer, and the patient is thinking about this robotic arm, feeding her. So that stuff is old. That's a couple years old. And that is already something that we see that and we say, wow, that's incredible. So wired. And we have companies like Neurable that has wireless. You have EEG, electroencephalographic, electrical information transmitted via Wi-Fi to an Arduino-like robot, and the person is thinking about the robot going right or left, and the robot is doing it, the machine is doing it. So imagine the power of connecting a machine to the human brain. Imagine people with disabilities, people who are paralyzed. In the trauma service, we have people who are paralyzed, they can't do anything but think. Well, it doesn't matter if you only think, because what matters is that you think, and you can then conquer the world if you can, with developments like this. So that nano reduction of technology brings us to devices like this machine, for example. This machine that it's a simple device that it's out there. You can buy it. It's a consumer device. It's an electroencephalogram that it's completely portable, and it's called the Muse. And the Muse basically reads your EEG and gives you a feedback on a phone app, and you can see how well you're doing. If it's a stormy beach or if it's a calm Maine beach with a little bird flying out. So you can, by feedback, learn how to relax, how to basically control the electrical activity of your brain. So that is because of the technology is so small and so incredibly powerful that you can do that. You have devices, and I don't have it here, but it's a ring that is a tracker. So it's just like the Fitbit or any of the other trackers, but it's in a ring form. And it has an algorithm for artificial intelligence that tells you how well you sleep and why you didn't sleep that well or why you did sleep that well. All because technology reducing to some sizes that it's pretty amazing. We have devices like the Scanadu, which was one of the first projects out there trying to aim for a health tracker, almost like a tricorder, like in Star Trek, tricorder to measure all the vital signs. Well, this little device you put on your forehead, and you could, within seconds, measure your heart rate, measure your temperature, measure your pulse, measure your oxygen saturation, just with a little device connected to the phone. And it's not only that, then that information can be sent anywhere you want, to your provider, to your friends, to whoever you want. That is important, because if you're a patient who's on a new blood pressure medication and you measure, some variables here, you can send them immediately in a continuous fashion, let's say, to your provider, then the treatment can be really optimized, and not one time, but in time. So it really personalizes the treatment and gives you really a whole curve of really what your health variables are. This is a new version of that. It's a Chinese device called the Viaton. This one is amazing. You hold this little device, it's like even smaller than a beeper. And then it checks your EKG waves, it checks your pulse oximetry, it checks your heart rate, it checks your temperature just by holding it. And that information can be sent to anyone you want. There's another device called the Bragi, which is a wireless earphone, but not just that. This one measures your heart rate, and then it also has an artificial intelligence algorithm where you can talk to the device in a way and let's say do a search on your phone by talking to the device. So things that are sometimes seem silly, but they're really not silly. If you think about that and you think about the applications of these devices in healthcare, I think that the potential is incredible. This is one of the first trackers. It's called the Alive Core. The Alive Core is just a little, it's smaller than a credit card. And you touch the two plates, and it connects to your phone, and it gives you an immediate EKG reading. That was 2 or 3 years ago. And now, the algorithm can recognize whether EKG tracing is normal or not. And if you have atrial fibrillation, for example, an irregular heartbeat, it can detect that, and it can send that to your doctor, and it can connect to a smartwatch. And then it can ask you, wait, we detected some abnormal rhythm. Are you doing okay? Well, no, I'm a little, I have palpitations, and I'm a little sweaty, and okay, we're going to call 911 for you. Imagine the potential of closing that loop by using technology in a smart fashion. To me, that's just fascinating. You can see your EKG, the same EKG that you see in the $100,000 machine in the hospital or else, but in your pocket, in the ambulance, in the school, in the helicopter. Is really fascinating to me. So this is another one that this blows my mind. I'm sorry I have to keep walking this way, but this is an ultrasound. You all have seen an ultrasound machine, and an ultrasound machine, $9,000 only, so I didn't break it, but $9,000. One of the more regular, usable, simpler ultrasound machines that we use at the hospital to find veins for the patients costs tens of thousands of dollars, and it's just to look for a vein. And the ultrasound machines that you've all seen in the hospital, they're bulky and expensive, and it's crazy. And you have this company called Clarius. Clarius brought this to Europe a year ago, and it's approved in Europe and just got approved here in the US, FDA approved. And this device connects to your phone, any smartphone, and you can see the ultrasound screen on your phone wirelessly. You don't need anything. You don't need a probe or anything, a cable. So this can be on your pocket. This can substitute my stethoscope. You put it in your pocket and you want to look at the heart, you want to look at the veins, you want to look at the arteries, you want to look at the lungs, you want to look at the gallbladder. You can do this with a machine that is very, very inexpensive and that has got phenomenal potential, not just to show you the image as good as the big machine, but also allows you to send those images to anywhere you want. Imagine in rural medicine, you have this machine you have this machine that allows you to do that in wilderness medicine. You know, the projections of that are really, really fantastic. And I'll show you that one. And this is another one that measures, but again, it's just a little finger probe that has all the capability to measure stuff, but also to send it out there. So that brings us to Google Glass. So Google Glass is really not a set of glasses. It's just a little cube, a little glass in there that is really a full-fledged computer, a full-fledged smartphone right in your forehead. It doesn't block your vision. It doesn't block what you're doing. And if I want to see the rear view mirror, you know, on the car, same thing, rear view mirror, and I see, you know, all the information that I need. It's voice activated. It's got a screen that really projects out of here in front of the eyes, and it's the equivalent of a 26-inch screen seen from about 8 feet away. You can ask questions. It gives you, it's like a Google Now digital assistant. You can look for directions. You can do the tweets. You can read your email. You can record a video. You can take a picture. So when I saw the potential of this machine to do that, I said, wow, in medicine and in medical education, it's pretty obvious that we really need to use it in a better way. So it's, you know, when we round in the hospital, we sit in the computer for an hour or so, getting all the paper that we carry in our pocket, you know, we're writing all the information, getting it from the computer. Part of that 80% time we spend away from the patient, right? You know, then we get up and they go to the patient's room with this bunch of paper in there, and then we look at the patient, we write the information, we sit down in the computer, and we put the information and the orders in the computer again. That's how we do it. It's completely archaic. It's crazy. When you could have a machine like this, a device like this, to have all that medical record in here. It's out there in the internet, and you can just walk with that information there. And when you need the information, then you use the information. Just like when you need the information of who's behind you in your car, you can look at the rear view mirror. So if you don't know about something, you can even do a teleconsultation with this. You can call a provider somewhere, and then the provider, you know, gives you the input that you need, without wasting time, without disconnecting from the patient. And it's been an evolution. You know, the first devices were really, really big, obviously, and bulky. You have the first AR, augmented reality devices that were so heavy that they had to be suspended. So now they're basically weightless. And it's the natural evolution of the device, the natural evolution of the computers from those big rooms filled with transistors and things to what we have now in healthcare, which is these portable computers. We all have seen that probably, and it's incredible that the technology is going in such a fast speed. This is Terminator. Remember that movie? Like 25 years ago. They were doing this stuff that we're now talking about doing, and we actually do it. Recognizing features, analyzing features, all in a computer head-mounted type a device. This is not science fiction anymore. This is real science these days. Hollywood always gets it right. If you see more or less, the timeline, it's behind a few years. But so if you want to be a good futurist, I tell people when they ask me, you got to watch a lot of movies. Sci-fi channel, 100% of the time, and then you get all those predictions right. But it's really, in general, it's true. You have movies like this, The Matrix, where that fusion between the real and the virtual. And people keep talking about that. Do we live in a virtual world, virtual reality world? And I don't know what they're thinking about, but it's almost there where we don't really know what's real and what's virtual anymore. And all those technologies can do that. You can interact, just like in this movie, Minority Report, remember, from Tom Cruise? You can interact with all the Internet of Things, the digital images, without touching it. And for a surgeon who has to be sterile in the operating room, and if I could interact with all those medical record data without touching anything, that'd be really, really fantastic. Again, is that science fiction? Well, it's not. That is completely real these days. You can bring up images. You can use smart glasses that don't require any touch at all. This is the Aether Air Glass. You just touch, and you have a computer in front of your eyes, and you're touching the air by gestures, and you are just manipulating that computer, just like instead of a mouse, you have your hands in the air. A camera reads your motion, and then boom, 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 you can really interact with the data the way you want. So Aether Labs is a phenomenal tool that I think will revolutionize, and it's already revolutionizing certain industries. And we really wanted to bring that to healthcare. Same way I show you the proof of concept of Google Glass, this is a proof of concept for interacting with a medical record with Aether Air. It's really all possible these days. You have devices like the HoloLens. The HoloLens is just my favorite tool these days. It's a device that allows you to project in front of you a hologram that only you can see, and we were trying to connect it to the computer, but we couldn't. We want to show you, but we'll show you something even better, I think. And the hologram is a digital image that you can interact with, and you're looking around, and you're seeing this hologram in high definition in ways that we really never do before. It's not virtual reality, it's not augmented reality, it's a mixed reality. It's what we call spatial computing. People talk about the four phases. When you have the graphic, the character interface, MS-DOS computing, that was the first the first interface. Then we had graphics interface, the Mac computers with all the nice graphics. And then we had the touch interface, which is the smartphones, what we all have. And now we have spatial computing, where the computing happens in space, where you can open up, this is a full-fledged computer, a Windows computer. I open a screen in here, and I go to the next room, and I open another screen, and I go to the next room, and open the next screen, and I can have 10 screens open up, and I can interact with them as I would in my PC or my laptop. I can do a Skype call in a holographic fashion, just with a device like this, which is completely untethered and connected to the internet. So for medicine, I think that the potential is really, really, really incredible. I brought this ugly picture just as a reminder, of how we did anatomy lessons back in the days, actually this is from 16 or 1700s. Awful. Mortui vivos docent, the dead teaching the living. And that's still the way. That's still the way it is in most places. And this is another ugly picture of that. I always bring this one because this is my great-great-grandfather in Venezuela, which is where I'm from, in the 1800s. He's this guy, And imagine like an anatomy class there without gloves or nothing, and it's really awful. And it's not very different these days. You have the cadaver, you have the human cadaver, which is, for many reasons wrong, ethical or morally or financially. It's just difficult to do that. You have the way to, instead of having the dead teach the living, you can have technology teach the living. And if we think smartly, we can have technology augmented in order to get rid of all those awful times when we had to deal with cadavers. Brings us to simulation. Simulation, it's important to train, do before you go and you do it in the human. Well, simulation is very important in every industry, from airline industry to medicine. And there's an app called Touch Surgery that it's a free app, Touch Surgery, and you go there and you can do step-by-step there's hundreds of operations in there. I did a couple of modules for them on how to do a chest tube or how to do an appendectomy, and it's free, and you go there and you step-by-step, and then it measures your performance. So instead of reading an atlas, a book, before you learn, or when you learn to do a surgery, you can do it in a digital form, but it's in a 2D format. You can have that on HoloLens and have it, and we have it already, and do the operation in a holographic fashion. Instead of 2D, you can walk around the hologram and you do the operation step by step until you learn it, until you master it, and then you go and do it on a patient. And you have technologies like this, Z-Space. And we have Elizabeth here all the way from sunny California. She came to show us. And this brings that 2D screen up in the air, and you can manipulate and interact that in an augmented reality fashion. And we're going to switch to her screen, and she's got the device in there. I really thought that she needed to show you how this is done, because this is such an amazing revolution, I think, in education that every school should have that. And this is not a proof of concept. This is the way it looks like to her with those glasses. And if it looks fantastic here, you can imagine the way it looks in there, and you can try it after the talk, and it's just really incredible. You can manipulate images, you can dissect the human body without the blood, without the smell, without the yuck factor, in a way that we could never do before. I think that's indeed, yeah, we can maybe go back to the other one. And this is Inside Heart. It's a German company that I've been helping. They have this hologram that we can put on the HoloLens, and it's a beating heart, and it has medical conditions, and the heart, it can integrate and get your own heartbeat, and you can walk around this heart, and you can open this heart up and look in the inside of the heart, and you can be quizzed about which part of the heart this is. So for physiology and anatomy learning, this is, I would say better than a real beating human heart. For obviously many reasons, right? But with the HoloLens, this is possible. And this is already available. This is actually a free app. If you have a HoloLens, it's a free app. So imagine that. It's something that it's not just marvelous, but it's free. So this is another, this is the University Case Western Reserve. They have this also free app that allows you to,
with
layer by
HoloLens,
layer,
you could imagine
digitally
having a class
created human
standing
body.
around a model, almost like a tour group in a museum, where they're all interacting
And you can have
completely
different,
naturally.
groups
I spend a
of
huge
people
amount of
interacting
time to make sure
and learning and being quizzed. Again, simulation, until you actually master what you're going to do in a way that we could never do before. These tools are still somewhat expensive and not available to the public, but these are the first few months of this technology, and very soon this is going to be ubiquitous, and we're going to all have this type of technology, because this is too fantastic to not be what the future is going to look like. So I'm going to bypass this. This is pretty much the same one. The Oculus. Have you all seen the Oculus Rift or the HTC device? Those designed for gaming, for killing people in the game, or for doing kind of silly things, in my view. You can use this not just in education, but in treating patients in healthcare. So this company thought, why don't we integrate all the data that we have in radiology images, MRIs or MRAs or CAT scans, and put that data in the actual Oculus. So you can have a surgeon, and more importantly, a patient, walk their own brain anatomy before the surgery. We always look at the images We look at the patient, we look at the images, and then we go to surgery. Well, if you could look at the images, and instead of just looking at a flat image, you could walk inside the patient's brain, in the case of a neurosurgeon, and see exactly where the vessels are going to in that tumor, and you can get that mental map. The surgery ought to be better. The errors, the 440,000 errors that kill people, we ought to reduce that, and we should be able to do that by using this type of technology, empowering the surgeon by the way of using the technology in a smart way. This is another one, it's Organon 3D, that allows you with the Oculus or HTC a platform basically to dissect the body in any way you can. You cannot bring it up like with Z-Space in a holographic fashion, but it's pretty amazing. And the Google Cardboard, which has been going around for a few years, is really literally a cardboard. And it's a box, and you open that box, and you put your phone in there, and there's hundreds now of apps, and you can put it on this little box, and you can just be immersed yourself in virtual a reality in a way never done before. This is the TED conference last year. Everyone got one of those cardboards. They cost like $5 in Amazon, or you can even, get the prints on the internet and do it yourself. And then just go and explore. Explore the world. Explore any discipline you want. Do a trip to Mars or to the underwater or to Scotland. It's really something that empowers people. Again, I keep saying imagine the potential of education with simple tools like this that are very, very available anywhere. Access to surgical care, to good surgical care, it's unbelievable low in the world. We know that about 5 billion people have no access to safe surgery. We know that 1 in 3 deaths are caused by the lack of surgical care, of adequate surgical care. All these numbers are incredible. You have places where you have overflow of surgeons, you have places where you have no surgeons at all. So the numbers are really appealing. They are really a shame, I think, as humans, that we should have that inequality. So a friend of mine, Dr. Shafi Ahmed, in the UK, who's a surgeon as I am, and a gig surgeon as I am, he has a company that is called Medical Realities. And Medical Realities thought, why don't we bring patients to our not patients, providers, to our operating room to learn how we do the surgeries. And instead of filming it with a regular camera and doing a telemedicine type of conference, they thought, why don't we bring providers in remote areas, in refugee camps, providers who really have no way to get experience because of many poverty or war or whatnot. Why don't we bring them, empower them to access what we do inside the OR at St. Bart's Hospital in London, one of the top places for laparoscopic surgery. So they planned this. They got a camera, like this camera that we have, and they set up not just a 360-degree filming of the event, of the surgery inside the operating room, but it was a live streaming of a real surgery. The patient gave them permission. They had 1 minute delay just for obvious reasons because it was really a tumor removal by laparoscopy. And they did the operation. Brilliant Dr. Shafi Ahmed, he did the operation and was talking to his residents and to his colleagues, and he had some people out there, watching him from Africa to South America to Asia, everywhere with simple devices or in flat screens, but a lot of people with actual devices, and they were in the OR, they were actually looking inside, to everything inside the OR, just like they were. They had all the students at the school there, provided with cardboard viewers. They sat in the auditorium sipping coffee instead of being in the OR trying to see what was happening. They had those cameras up there that are similar to this one. Oops, that's not good. And boom, they started the operation. Hour and a half later, they finished the operation, and they went to their analytics. So if you were in Machias, one of those, go to the link, put the phone in the cardboard, and you were there. And you couldn't talk to them, but you could hear everything they were saying. And it was a teaching, a lesson of how to do surgery. And they said, okay, let's see the analytics. And then they went out, and they have 55,000 people all over the world, 55,000 people in the OR, inside the OR with them live, watching, learning, some for fun, but most for learning. They wanted to see how is it done, how is a colectomy laparoscopically done. So it's a first step, but it's an amazing step of using the technology in a smart fashion. VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, it's really incredible. The Army, the Veterans Affairs Department is using this. There's an app called A Brave Mind, which is helping soldiers by the way of immersing them in situations that cause PTSD, is allowing them to heal by using this technology in a smart way. Brave Mind is an actual app that they're using, an actual platform that they're using in many VA hospitals in the United States. And you have other places where they're using them to treat phobias. And this is so real. If you haven't done the Oculus, just put an Oculus in there. And you forget that you are really standing in ground. And they have these people, walking the plank, and it's so immersive and so real that people, and if you give it some volume, people just cry. They can't do it. They feel that they're going to fall because they're there, and that's what you're seeing. So this is what they are seeing. This is what they are seeing. So if you know a little bit of psychology or psychiatry, think how powerful this could be to just get you out of phobias, or arachnophobia, or fear of heights. But more importantly, in healthcare, there's a Cedars-Sinai, Dr. Brennan Spiegel, a friend of mine. He's the most advanced validator of this technology. They're using it in the perioperative area, giving patients not drugs. Think about the narcotics epidemic that we have in this country. Not drugs, but he's giving them the capability to immerse, not just distract, but morph the brain, the plasticity of the brain. It works in ways that we can't really think of. It's not distracting the patient, you pinch them there and then pinch them here. No, it's completely changing the way the patient reacts to pain, to anxiety. So they're using it for reducing anxiety and perioperative pain. And they have already shown, 2 days ago, they published the first paper, that it's validated the fact that this is better than narcotics and sedatives for many surgical procedures. Many patients with much less anxiolytics, or many patients with much less use of narcotics, because instead they just had a few bucks platform with a free app that they actually created. So it's really, really pretty significant. There's someone going a step beyond. Uncomfort. Uncomfort is doing the same thing, but they have a little bit of subliminal hypnosis. We've treated pain and anxiety with hypnosis for years. Dentists who are doing it routinely, anesthesiologists who are doing it routinely, well, they do it, but instead of having hypnotist there, they have the hypnotist in the actual app. And they also shown, this is a company from Belgium and the US, California, obviously. But they are showing also incredible results, decreasing perioperative anxiety and need for narcotics, decreasing the need for narcotics, uncomfort. And now it's not just seeing that, immersing yourself. Now you have the way to somewhat interact and almost feel the virtual reality, feel that augmented reality. These are prototypes that are already very close to coming to the market. You have ways of feeling and touching, not just touch, but temperature, by using technology, by hacking the system in ways that very soon we're going to be able to feel a patient remotely via telemedicine using some sort of suit and gloves and just feeling the abdomen. I'm in Bangor and the patient is in my chest, and I can feel and see what it needs to be done. So it's the closest we can get to holoportation, I guess, like in Star Trek, movies. So even more so, you can have a robotic arm, let's say somewhere, and now by interacting with the virtual reality and the algorithm, you can remotely and wirelessly, you can move that robotic arm. And this is very simple. This is from MIT, I believe. But he's not touching anything. He's just training the robot, and then he can just all do it in virtual reality. The robot moves without the need of having physical interaction between the operator and the actual robot. So this could transform the way we do robotic surgery. Imagine how you can improve access to surgeons by something like this. This is the future for sure. There's no question about that. So it takes a lot of imagination, but I think that's the only limit. That's the only hurdle that we have, really, imagination. In surgery, for example, we know that we do all these checklists, and 40 times a week, And this is a number that it's out there and that is validated. But even if it's 1 time a week, you have patients who every week get wrong side surgery. Imagine that, the wrong breast or the wrong leg or the wrong eye operated just because someone made a mistake. So these technologies can probably and hopefully help prevent that by having digital assistants and having, head-mounted displays that are smart, that are tapped to the internet and to artificial intelligence algorithms, help us really, really do our jobs better in medicine. Sometimes you have many times frequently in surgery especially, and in trauma surgery, you have, you're running against the clock, they have a million things happening at the same time. Well, these devices can help you keep track of time, keep track of, by announcing you and alerting you of things. Just like when you're going to the airport and suddenly your phone tells you you're going the wrong direction because, it's in A12, the gate you're going and you're going this way. So the same way you can be prevented from taking the wrong plane, preventing from cutting the wrong breast or the wrong leg. This is really, really very, very powerful, I think. So, lastly, medical education and telementoring. We can really change the way things are done. We have students behind us inside the operating room, already crowded, trying to see what we're doing. And this is the way we've done it for many, many years. And it's still the same. Still the same. Some places still have those big balconies. And that is almost ridiculous because you can have technologies like this. And this is pretty much what I did in the operating room with Google Glass. I just put them on, did the operation like nothing different, and the students were sitting next door, sipping coffee, and they were seeing, my perspective, my focal point, my point of view of what I was doing. I was connecting with them. I wasn't just recording the operation from a different angle. They were in my head, looking at the same view, and they were connecting, asking questions, answering questions sometimes, and they were just sitting, next door, basically, relaxed, comfortable, being able to learn in a much better fashion and looking at the operation, in any portable screen. So it's really, really incredible the way that we can increase connectivity, I think. Technology, sometimes people say, it separates us distances us from the patients. And I think it's completely opposite. You've all been to the doctor. After a few seconds, hello, how are you? Blah, blah, we turn away and we go to the computer. 80% of the times we're with the computer, 10% of the times we're with the patient. This is the way it is in the ER, in the offices, in the preoperative area, in the postoperative area. Patients out there, we're here in the computer. And that is wrong. And I think this technology, if used in a smart way, can really connect us, help us connect better with the patient. I can have the head-mounted display, Google Glass, or any of the other ones, and I can be with the patient eye to eye, physical contact, giving them a sad news or bad news or good news, and eye-to-eye contact, while if I need to access the chart, I don't need to turn away, I have the chart in front of me. So technology augmented the way we are as humans. That is very, very important. There's a quote of Einstein that you all read there, and I completely disagree with it, because I don't think that it's really the technology. It's really the way we use the technology. It's the smart use of the technology really that can change the game. Technology can allow us to be better humans. Like when people say that robots are going to substitute doctors or factory workers, or to some degree. But I think that machines will allow us to have more time to be better humans. You have machines that we have to do a lot of work now that the machine should be doing, because we're not good at it, calculating or trying to look for the right drug or the right protocols, and we shouldn't be doing that. Machines should be doing that so that we can be better human providers, sitting with the patient, holding their hand, spending not 80% of the time with the computer, but 80% of the time with the patient face to face. That's what that technology can really achieve in healthcare and in medical education. So thank you very much, and thank you. I don't know, we have time for some questions, Mary, or what do you think?
Absolutely. If you have questions right from where you are, if you could stand up, it would, that's better. Anybody? I can think of a million ways this can be used. Kathy.
Thanks, that was amazing. I just like.
Stand up, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy. And I'll repeat the question anyways if people don't hear it.
Wow, I can't even imagine half of that stuff being used. I graduated from nursing school in 1970, so
Yeah, gastric tube, yeah.
Right. Do you ever see that the technology could be a distraction? Meaning, if something happened with your signal to your Google Glass, or if there was some fogging of your mask, or something along that line, could that distract you from the patient?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like any other technology, you know. We need light to operate. Suddenly the light blows up. You don't have light. You have to wait until the lights are off. You're doing laparoscopic surgery, which we've been doing for 20 years or more, and the camera is going, and boom, you suddenly lose the image. The gas, we have to inflate the abdomen with gas, and then suddenly the gas tank runs out. So, you know, there's a million ways that technology or machines or equipment can fail and can maybe distract us. But that's just part of the game. I think that certainly the beauty of something like Google Glass, for example, is that it's so simple that you don't really, I didn't even think that I had it there. I just turned it on and I did my operation the same way because it wasn't obtrusive. So in that sense, the design, I think, is just fantastic. And you know, there are companies like Augmetics that are using this technology to, for example, have a remote scribe. Augmetics is a company in Silicon Valley. So Augmetics uses Google Glass in the doctor's head, and then you interact with the patient, and there's a scribe. You all know what a scribe is, right? It's someone who's recording everything you do so that you don't have to write down everything the patient tells you. So a scribe is usually behind the physician or the nurse writing everything in there so that you can then remember at the end of the day and put it in the computer. But the scribe is situated remotely via Google Glass. So the scribe is seen, so if the signal is lost, then, well, the scribe won't be able to get, but I think it's just part of the flow, the dynamic of using technology. But I certainly think that it's important that you don't put technology in front of the patient, you know. I mean, if the signal goes off and suddenly I don't have a video signal inside the patient's abdomen when I'm doing laparoscopy, then, you know, that's why you train. And then you have to then think, okay, we either get it fixed or we have to open the patient up and do the operation the ways we usually do it, you know, in an open fashion. So there's a million ways. It's important to not see this technology as a different technology than any of the other ones that we use on a daily basis. People talk about privacy when we use, you know, the camera. Well, it's the same thing with phones. You know, how do you know that when someone has a phone, they're not recording you or they're not, you know, taking a video of you? It's the ethics in the use of the technology that is really important, no matter what the technology is. That's a great question. It's a question that always comes up.
I actually met Eric Topol. You mentioned him
Yeah.
earlier. And he wrote about what I saw in his book, The Patient Will See You Now.
Yep.
I was sitting in front of the patient that basically collapsed on that airplane.
Yep.
And I'm an old triage nurse. I used to work with Mary. And, you know, the first things we would do if a patient collapsed or was, you know, pale and sweaty and, you know, not feeling well, ready to pass out, would be to lay them flat, put their feet up, give them some oxygen, maybe give them a cool cloth. And Dr. Topol came with all of his techie tools, and he did an ultrasound, he did an EKG,
Yeah.
he did pulse oximetry, he did a blood pressure and pulse, he did all of these awesome things, which is just amazing to me. And I'm sitting there as an old triage nurse saying, how about some oxygen? And it was only after he did all of those things that he actually gave the patient some oxygen and cool liquids,
Yeah.
the cool cloth for his head. But those are things, you know, you know, us with our simple brains would think of first. For the patient, it would be the comfort measures, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's an interesting story that the technical tools are really extremely important, and we didn't have to land that plane because the man wasn't having a heart attack. On the other hand, his comfort from the nursing's perspective would come first, I guess.
Absolutely, and it's a great point, and I think that, and that's why, you know, we train. That's why we work in you know, not alone, but with multiple team members who are no one is more important than others. Nurses, doctors, techs. I think it's a team sport. But you're right. And again, that's why we do simulations. That's why we do training, and that's very, very important. That's why we have checklists, because A would be one of the first things, and breathing and oxygen, those are things that you need to, check mark before you start doing other things. But there's always the potential for that to happen with really any technology. I don't think that it's a way to think, the technology is not good because it's distracting us. It's just we need to certainly learn to use technology without losing the old ways, and learning how to integrate the new ways with the old, with the traditional ways, because at the end it's a closed loop. You cannot do just the new stuff and not the old stuff. It's really a continuum, and I think that's a very, very important point.
Other questions?
Yes.
So technology is now moving faster than the government agencies and the regulations associated with healthcare. How, I'm sure you've run into a few barriers now and again with HIPAA or whatever compliance is appropriate at that time. How have you worked through that when you run into barriers?
Well, that's a great question. Barriers and how do you solve I'm always, I guess, optimistic that the barriers are very temporary. Whether it's battery life or whether it's connectivity or technology will eventually, because it's growing exponentially, eventually provide. And unfortunately, the regulators don't go as exponential as the technology goes, but they go. And I think that more and more this is more and more common. So all these technologies are really almost everyday life tools. I last year was honored to be part of a working group with Deloitte and the FDA. So, and every FDA officer in general was much younger than I remember them when I first met them. But they're also not just younger, but they are younger in mind, they're technophiles in a way. They know because they use all these technologies, and they might use Snapchat or Twitter, so they get it and they get the potential. So certainly it's a learning curve, and always the administrations, always the regulators are far behind, but I think they're catching up. Telemedicine, for example, reimbursement for telemedicine is something that in most states in the union, in the country now, most states actually pay for telemedicine, which before they didn't, because it's not a real, well, if I talk to you on the phone, telemedicine is the same, but better. And so why would you not pay me for this and pay me for that? I think that it's very important that, we keep, that you need to have ethical behavior and basically have the same rules when you whether you use technology or not use technology. If you have a new device, you need to inform the patient. You need to have always that patient-doctor relationship to inform the patient. And most patients really, I have a good friend in Paris. She organizes a conference called Doctors 2.0 every June. So June in Paris. You should attend that conference. It's very, very nice. And Denise Silver, and she coined that term, that phrase, that patients rather be cured than secured. And it's kind of a little joke in the wording, you want to be cured rather than secured, but at the end, obviously, security and privacy of patient information is very important. It's been said that patient, health information is one of the most important currencies out there right now. People rather have your patient chart than have your credit card information, and that is true. So it's very important, but I think that all those things are becoming, and very soon will be, kind of a thing of the past, because everything we do everything is hackable, and in a way, right? And as long as you have the proper measures to assure that you are really thinking about this and you're trying to keep that information safe and secure, I think that shouldn't be an obstacle, but it is an obstacle very, very frequently. Yes.
Thank you for this presentation. This is great.
Thank you.
For those of us who are educators here, could you provide, and knowing that this is an ongoing culture shift in healthcare, what recommendations would you have for those of us who are overseeing the education of the future practitioners in healthcare, and how we can prepare curriculum and
Well, that's a great question. I think that's sort of the matter of the. I think that there's no specific advice that I can give other than be open-minded and connect. Connect because there's tons of information out there. There are blog posts and there are websites and there is information on a daily basis in any of the major news feeds about how technology is changing. And I guess open-minded is the best way to describe it, and obviously careful. There are many things out there that are apps that say that they do this, and they actually there's like 250 health apps out there, and most of them don't work. They're just fake, or they're not really true information. But I think that being open-minded and just being inquisitive and try to look for the information is out there in many sources, and it's very, very important that it happens in school, because I'm afraid I have sometimes students that don't even know what Twitter is, or don't know what you ask them about an app or about a device that has been, Google Glass has been, out for 4 years now, and they never heard of that. So to me, that might be a problem with the actual person, but I think that if you're in medical school and you're not learning about this stuff early on, or in nursing school, and if you are not learning about this early on, by the time you finish, 3, 4, 6 years later, you're going to be so far behind. Social media, for example. Social media could be a curse, but I use social media a lot, LinkedIn and Twitter, only for professional matters, to communicate and to get stuff, back and forth, continuous flow of medical-related or medical education-related information. And some students don't even know how to do that. I've been trying to help creating a curriculum for healthcare social media. I have a friend of mine in Hungary who created the first social media healthcare a curriculum at the University of Budapest, and he had people traveling to him from England once a week to listen to his class, and then he put it online for free. That's on my website, and you can watch 17 modules of how to use social media for healthcare. That is fantastic. That should be in every medical and nursing school in the country, because if you don't do it, by the time you finish, you're going to be a decade behind. And some other countries, some other schools are going to be way ahead of you, and at the end, you're going to be on the loss. So it's very important. Yes?
I actually would argue that it's probably us that have to change, and not necessarily students. The students are probably quite well versed technologically, and us fossil educators probably need to be the ones that have to be open and embrace it. But I do think that we need to be cautious sometimes of helping our students understand that this technology is to serve a purpose, and we're not just doing it because it's a cool thing to do, or it's a new toy or whatever, but these things actually are designed to serve a purpose, and I think sometimes students get lost in that.
No, absolutely. It's both teachers, educators, and students. The public. Technology companies, you have platforms like ZSpace, for example, which is pretty intuitive, that's going to help you learn anatomy better than a book would, or even a cadaver would. So it's just, you have to be open-minded and be really, I think, almost aggressive, pursuing that, because otherwise, again, you're going to be behind. At the end, the students are the one who's going to suffer, and at the end, after that, it's going to be the patient who's going to be the one suffering because he's getting substandard care. Yes? You again?
Another quick question.
Yes.
You talked about live streaming surgeries or other procedures, whatever you choose to live stream. Is that at the same time being recorded? And if it is, shouldn't that become part of the patient's medical record?
Yeah, and it is, and they're very standard and very stringent protocols for doing that. For example, we at the hospital would record trauma encounters, and we had a very strict protocol checked, marked by everyone in the hospital that needed to permit that from happening, keeping the privacy of the information, keeping it in a secure place, destroying it after so much time, and got all the legalities around that. And that was an incredible tool to learn. Imagine you can record what happens. So I would love, there's a project called Black Box, surgical black box. It's basically a black box in the planes. I wish every second of my professional life would be recorded. That really, that way I can get rid of emails and meetings because it's there. Just watch the video. What happened? I don't have to tell you, and it's very important. But it's important that obviously it's important that the patient gives consent, and it's important that all the regulatory, check marks are in place. And it is in many places part of the medical record. We have places where videos and photos are part of the electronic medical record, and it's just like any other piece of information out there. That's a very important point. Yes, sir.
No one doubts the value of technology and its role here. Thank you for a tremendous presentation.
Thank you.
The more technology expands, though, the more I worry about students and even our own ability to critically think. So students can Google it. Why should they know it? If your surgeon can go ahead and follow the Google Glass paradigm, I would hope that they would have still years of practice before they would operate on me.
Yeah. Now, that's a great point as well, because, and that happens already with Google Glass or any of those new technologies. You have a point where, we do a lot of minimally invasive surgery, right? And it has been a struggle, and it has been a very, very intense effort for the last 15, 20 years. How do you if you can do a colon resection through a couple of tiny little incisions with a laparoscope or with a robotic device, how about when you are in a place where you don't have that technology? Or how about when the electricity goes out? Or how about the equipment breaks? Or how do you so training a future generation of, let's talk about this case, surgeons, on how to do an open surgery. You finish your residency after 5 or 7 years, and you have done a couple of open gallbladders. I'm old enough, I guess, that I had the benefit of living the good life before, and now I'm living the even better life. But I have both experiences. It is a problem sometimes, and it has to be in the mind of the educators, the hospitals, universities, schools, to really keep that balance, because you cannot certainly be there or here. You need to have a mix of the two, and you need to be facile to be able to do an open appendectomy or a laparoscopic appendectomy. Certainly the laparoscopic is better, but if something happens, you need to be able to open the abdomen and do it the traditional way. So it's really a great point, because there's no good magic formula for that, other than acknowledging that and working towards the goal of you have to do both. Yes, you can Google anything, and there are great books out there, about how easy it is to access information. And will I not need my memory anymore? Because why would I remember this or that when I can just boom boom and get all the medications I need, or all the interactions I need, or all the anatomical. And I cannot answer that question. I think that it just have to be in our minds to acknowledge that and somehow, keep that balance. Because certainly I remember many more things, fewer things now that I did when I was, let's say, a resident or a medical student, because I can just open my phone and 2 taps and I get the information there. But I'm able to now learn other things and free up my mind in a way to learn other things that I cannot get from the device. Or like I said, not having the technology, take over, but having the technology do things that it's probably not that important that I do, and allow me to spend more time with the patient, or being more, a better human doctor than I was before, trying to look for all those specific details that now the computer, the internet can do much faster. So it's a worry, and it's a great point. And I think that, being at a school, at a university, I think that it's really important that, the ones who make the curricula, they really acknowledge that. Yes, Mark.
Okay, so I'm a 53-year-old veterinarian, and the reason I'm telling you that is because I'm old enough to have been in high school when they were still using slide rules, and I remember a teacher telling me specifically, I'm going to teach you how to use the slide rule, because these darn calculators, I'm telling you, they're going to die. So, fast forward, someone came up to me at the beginning of this on whose friend's pet I'd done intestinal surgery on last week. That intestinal surgery, the very first time I did it, was, it's an unusual surgery, so we don't do it very commonly. And I remember the first time I did it, probably 2 years out of veterinary school, I did that surgery totally trying to get the book, trying to figure out exactly how to do it. The colleague that I worked with showed me a YouTube on the surgery that he had looked at the night before we did it, which I thought was fantastic. I think 40 years from now, or 30 years from now, they're going to be doing virtual reality teaching so that you can actually feel the surgery, so you can actually learn it in 3 dimensions rather than looking at it on a YouTube video. And I think in the same way that I'm in the next generation now to look at the YouTube video and go, oh my God, these kids nowadays, they have amazing things, I'm just saying. It's an evolution, and unfortunately, it's an evolution that's very slow. Fortunately and unfortunately, it's very slow. I'm not an early adopter. My wife is an early adopter, but I applaud you guys that are.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's going to be, I think it's not going to be 40 years. Because,
Me neither.
I mean, we saw those
Yes, it
people
will.
with the skin.
Yeah.
Yes, it will. No, it won't. So,
I want to show you guys how to use the slide rules, because you need to know.
you never know, calculators are going out of style. They actually went out of style a long time ago. But first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Grossman, amazing.
My pleasure.
I want, because we do have a lot of pharmacy colleagues here, I want to say that the technology Elizabeth was showing us beforehand, like in terms of teaching biochemistry or teaching effects of drugs on the human body would be game-changing. I mean, just things that we can't teach now, we can only talk about or show in one dimension on a whiteboard, that students can actually touch and move. And the day that you put that I have to have that holographic glass, and my dean, I'm looking for money. So, I mean, when I looked up there and saw that heart, and I could walk around it and touch it, and scroll down, and nobody else, well, it was only Raphael and I, in the room could see the same thing I could see, which has happened to me before in my life, by the way, but not with a holograph on. You can test yourself. It would be so amazingly powerful for students.
Yeah.
I just see it like being just a giant leap for mankind.
It strikes me that it's useful so much in education above all else.
Yeah.
All those things that I was learning along the line, whether it was a surgical procedure or how to use a calculator, were all in the educational setting.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And education, but any industry really, if you talk, advertisement, design, architecture, engineering, it's just, again, another computing platform. It's just going to, very soon, I agree, I think it's going to be that decades. I think it's within a few years, because you go to China and there's like 10 HoloLens out there that no one heard about, and 1 billion people use them. So it's like, it's going to happen much sooner, I think, that we realize. But who knows? I guess time. I'm going to watch a sci-fi movie, and I'll tell you how long it's going to be.
Thank you so much. Any other questions before we finish up? And those of you who are continuing on with us for faculty development, it's up at the CFB with lunch, and Mr. Mendenhall is going to be giving the keynote on sustainability of IPE. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Elizabeth, thank you very much.